Good morning. My name is Connie Romanis, and I'm president of the League of Women Voters. On behalf of the League, I would like to thank the candidates for agreeing to participate in the candidate forum for the Peoria City Council District 2 and for St. Paul Episcopal Church, who's allowing us to use their space for this event. The candidates for Peoria City Council District 2 are Alex Carmona and Estrella Diaz. We appreciate the audience that is here and those who are at home on our live stream channel, YouTube, League of Women Voters, Greater Peoria, LWVGP. For those attending in person, we hope you'll submit questions for the candidates. We have collectors who will provide you with index cards to write your questions, and the collectors will give those to the moderator. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan group organization of men and women. We do not endorse candidates nor political parties, but we do take positions on issues after a lengthy study process. Our mission is to empower voters and defend democracy. Another part of the League's mission is voter education. We do this through candidate forums. We've been doing forums for many years throughout the country. It's our way for you to hear directly from the candidates. So we hope that you will walk away from here today with a little more information about the issues in the district and the community, as well as the candidates themselves, so you can make an informed decision when you vote. Early voting starts March 17th in Peoria County. So whether you vote in person or vote by mail, make your voice heard. Election day is April 1st. Just a few housekeeping tasks. Please mute your phones and hold your applause for the candidates until after the closing statements. There are no recordings allowed during the event by those attending. Our moderator today is Chris Kiergaard. He will run through the rules and then we'll get started. Chris has a few questions that were prepared by League members to get us going while you write down the questions that you would like to have asked. Chris?
All right. Thank you, Connie. As Connie said, I'm Chris Kiergaard. I'll be your moderator today. Our candidates are old hands at this, having been in this room just a little over a month and a half ago to do the primary election forum. So we will get started very quickly here with this. As Connie mentioned, we have prepared a series of questions to begin asking, as well as questions that the members of the audience are submitting. If you have questions as we go through, please feel free to submit those. We have two people who will be walking around to collect submitted questions. I will remind you, any submitted questions do need to be questions that can be asked of both candidates to respond to. Candidates have agreed to the rules for the forum beforehand, and those rules contemplate a 2-minute opening statement, followed by 1 minute each to answer questions that are directed at them, followed by a 2-minute closing statement. One of my compatriots in the back of the room will begin gesturing frantically at me about 5 minutes before we are due to end the forum so that we can move smoothly into opening statements. We also have volunteers in the back with the League who will be holding up timing paddles for everybody, letting you know when you have 1 minute, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and the big red stop sign means come to the end of that sentence so that I don't have to say, thank you, but rather can simply say, thank you, and move on to the next respondent.
Oh. So you have to share your mic with them so they can come back to this.
All right. Well, that will be an adventure then. We'll be passing the mic back and forth. All right, we'll make do. Other than that, I simply want to remind the audience to remain as silent as possible throughout the forum, not only for the benefit of your fellow audience members here, but also for those who are watching on the live stream so that they can best hear what the answers are and be able to make their decisions on how they wish to vote as well. All right. Having drawn cards for who will begin, we will start with opening statements from Ms. Diaz and then Mr. Carmona.
Hi. So So I just wanted to first off thank the League of Women Voters for having us again and having us here in this lovely place that we've been having forums at. But I wanted to say my name is Estrella Diaz. I am 23 years old and I'm running for District 2 City Council, and I'm pretty excited. The reason why I'm running is because I realize if we want change to happen at a local level, then we have to start at a local level. Because I know a lot of people can feel as though on a national level, politics isn't really doing much for them. But the reason why for that is because we have to start locally. If we don't start locally, then, it really isn't going to matter, because we're not going to be able to make changes that are going to affect us on a day-to-day basis. Some of the things that my platforms include is safe and thriving communities. I want to take more holistic approaches when it comes to going after crime. And I want to make sure that everybody in my district feels safe and that they want to stay here and that they also want to invest here. Another thing I want to focus on is I also want to focus on the local economy, where we support local businesses, whether it's through pop-up shops, and I also want to support union workers and their rights. But I just appreciate you all for being out here, and the more that we go throughout this forum, you'll get to know me and you'll get to know my stance on things, and I hope that I can, answer the best of my capabilities and do right by you guys. But thank you.
All right, Mr. Carmona.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this on. We really appreciate forums like this. We've been a part of several of them now, so we're getting kind of used to it. My name is Alex Carmona. I'm also running for District 2 City Council. My wife Chelsea and I moved here with our 3 kids from Colorado about 5.5 years ago, and I've really just fallen in love with this city. We see the incredible potential that the city has to grow and thrive, to bring opportunities to all the citizens that are here, and to get more people to move here from other places. Give you a little bit of my background. I am a 2nd-generation immigrant, born and raised in Colorado. Grew up very fast, got married very young, and joined the Air Force. I built my art business while I was in the Air Force, and I was finally able to leave after I could pay all my bills solely with my art. So I'm a business owner still, and now I have the time, and I'm ready with it for this commitment to do this job in the right way. My basic 3 pillars start with, first, the essentials of government, which are all based around safety. Everybody wants a safe city, and this is something we definitely agree on. You hear every candidate talking about this. This is the first duty that we need to make sure that we bring to our citizens. My second one is what I like to call a new renaissance for Peoria, because we believe in this city so much and we see its potential. It'll be very easy to show everybody else our city, business owners and residents from the outside, to visit us and potentially move here too. There's a lot of things we could do in that space to help improve that. And the last thing is community. Things are easier to change if if we're all on board with it, if we're all here to help, to volunteer, and to be a part of things like this. So the community is a very big part of my platform as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are we able to hear me on the live stream if I project a little bit? That way, no? We can't tell. Okay. All right. I was just hoping we could avoid having to pass it all the way back down here and not, but okay. Well, I'll grab the mic for now, and that way we'll be sure of it. And we'll begin with Mr. Carmona with the first question, and then Ms. Diaz. You both had time during the primary and your campaign to hear feedback from your prospective constituents. I would like to know, is there anything you've changed your mind on during that time?
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of walking around and talking to a lot of people. I'm not going to say I necessarily changed my mind on anything. My platform, I'm not going to say it's business heavy, but I am really trying to show the importance of bringing more opportunity to all the citizens here. But after walking around so many different neighborhoods, it's pretty clear that the city has overlooked the infrastructure of our neighborhoods. So we have to make sure that we're distributing the funds that we take in from taxpayers in a good way that is beneficial to all the citizens of our city. And so even though our downtown area is the economic driver of our whole city and it's in our district, we have to make sure that we also take care of all the neighborhoods and their needs as well.
All right, Ms. Diaz.
Yeah, so my main focus has mostly been on low-income families and helping out the most vulnerable. But I also realize that I can alienate business owners, and I'm not saying that my whole focus will be on them, but I realize they are a key factor in the economy. And what I plan to do is, if we are to support our local businesses by offering them resources such as the distillery lab and looking at what they're doing with slices and startups with helping young entrepreneurs, it'll help the people here who also want to start up businesses, but it also help us support one another. And when we support one another, we can create a more thriving Peoria, because when we invest in not just the people here, but also the businesses will then invest in us, and they will end up taking care of us as well.
All right, excellent. We're going to try this once without the microphone, and somebody's listening outside to see if they can hear me. So, Ms. Diaz and then Mr. Carmona, what do you view as a district council member's responsibility to the neighborhood associations within the district?
Oh, always showing up for them and going to their meetings, just because they're the ones who are living in these specific neighborhoods. And what better way to get to the root issues of whatever issues our district is facing than going up to the ones who are directly being affected by them. I feel as if we're meeting them where they're at and meeting them at their neighborhood association meetings, then we're able to become we're able to break that barrier and that disconnect that government has with the people that they serve.
Mr. Carmona.
I really love District 2 because it has such strong neighborhood associations. Everybody's very proud of their neighborhoods. I'm a Moss Bradley resident, and we have a very strong association there. We're very involved in that. The duty, not just to the neighborhood associations, but to everybody in District 2, is to be there for them. So yes, go to neighborhood association meetings, try to go to events that they hold. What we are trying to do right now is basically create positive relationships with everybody in our district. So being involved however we can in events that they're doing, making sure we're there to hear their concerns, just basically being there for them. Thank you.
All right. What District 2 business owners have you met with, and what concerns have they expressed regarding District 2's future?
I'll say one of the main ones I've met with is Andrew Muir. One of the concerns that he's had has been around, how difficult it is to do business here. I wanted to just tell a quick story about him, because he owns a vacant lot that he was trying to put a building on. And so he put a proposition together, a plan together, brought it to the city, and the lot's empty. So he brings this proposition and he says, I want to build this building. And they say, no, you cannot build it because it has to have a second floor on it. And he says, okay, well, I don't need a second floor. And so they said they're basically, were not able to work with him because of form-based code, which on Maine, they want everything to look a specific way. We need to be able to look at regulations like this and see if they're destructive to our economy or not, because the result of this is that lot is still vacant. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Diaz.
Hi, so one of the owners that I've met is the lovely couple, Maria and Angel, and they own Simply For You, which is off of Main Street. And some of the issues that they're facing is they're not getting enough promotion and not enough love from their community. I feel as if if we host pop-up shops so that we can have more community members get involved and to see the local businesses that we have, they're able to get a little taste of Peoria and, get to see the life and just the creativity that people and business owners have here. But I definitely think just supporting more local businesses and showing our support to them again, because when we show that we truly take care of our people and including business owners, then they will want to do everything in their power to invest in Peoria because we're taking care of them and they know that we're taking care of them. Because when people are taken care of, they'll want to take care of you back.
Okay. Next question. A recent council vote authorized outside assistance in working to attract a potential land-based paradise casino to Peoria. Is this the right course for the city? And if so, are there locations or areas for it that you think should be off limits? Ms. Diaz.
Yes. Okay.
Microphone.
Okay, and you said we voted for yes.
The city has voted to authorize outside assistance in working to attract it here?
Okay. The only reason I'm like halfway on board is because I think it would bring in a lot of revenue, but I think we should have had more inside. We should have had more inside source just because we have people here who have great ideas, but also people who can definitely help us here. And I think we should start locally because if we start locally, if we have people here who are actually wanting to do things better for Peoria, then we'll have the people actually know that we're listening to them and we want to hear from them. In specific places, just more green spaces. I'd rather not see them be tore down or just, if it's an empty space that we can put it in, then sure, such as like an empty building. But I don't necessarily want any green spaces to be tore down just to build a specific, to build the land-based casino.
Right, Mr. Carmona.
An agreement was signed between East Peoria and the city of Peoria that said that if it ever went land-based, that it would be here in our city. Now, we already share 50% of the revenues that they make over there on the other side of the river already, and that will stay the same. I am on board with this, the casino coming here. It would be great if it was right in our economic driver, the downtown area where you can see it from the freeway. And the reason I'd like to see it here land-based is because of the things that are going to pop up around it. Things like this are going to attract people to come to Peoria, to use the restaurants here, to come to events here. And so having this one big business that's going to come here to generate more revenue, not only just from the aspect of the casino, but all the other places around as well, is going to be very positive for our city.
Okay. Mr. Carmona, next question to you first. The most important number, if either of you is elected, is 6. That's the number of votes it takes to pass something on the city council. With that in mind, I'd like you each to give us an example of a time you had to work with others and build a coalition out of people who didn't necessarily agree to reach a solution on something, and how you would bring that skill to the council.
Yes, I've worked on many projects. So I'm an artist for a living, and I'm constantly having to work with a lot of different ideas. I've worked with multi-million-dollar budgets for huge events where I created all the artwork in Las Vegas, actually. So big convention with a huge budget that had a lot of stakeholders, that had a lot of different needs. In order to create any sort of change or agreement, you have to first create camaraderie. My first duty, if I'm elected to be on council, is going to be to talk to all the other council members, to staff, to the mayor, to the city manager, and to create positive personal relationships with them. That way, it's a lot easier to have more difficult conversations when people trust each other and know where they're coming from.
All right, Ms. Diaz.
Yeah, so I worked in various organizations, whether it's Young Revolution, Peoria for Palestine, where we had multiple different voices vocalizing their concerns. And sometimes we didn't always agree, but that didn't mean that we were never going to work together. No, of course not. That just meant sometimes we have our differences, but I think it always comes back to compromising with one another. And if it comes to voting on specific items, I think it's best to come with all the facts. And not just the facts, but also talking with one another, even though we may not disagree or we may not agree with each other on certain things. I think it's best to just communicate with one another to see where each of us is coming from. But not only that, find some common ground, because we need to work as a team, because essentially that's what city council is you guys are working on it. You guys are working as a team to make the city better for the people that are living here.
All right. Thank you. And hold the mic. You'll be up next. Whether it's because of economic challenges, transportation difficulties within a food desert, or other issues, food and nutrition insecurity is a problem for some of the constituents you would represent. Is there anything that you believe the city can do to address this, particularly within District 2?
Well, I specifically loved what the Ag Lab did, where when we invested in them, they invested in penicillin. You know how that goes. And because of them, they had a garden where they donated their crops to Sophie's Kitchen. And I feel as if we're able to help out one another, such as doing stuff like that and investing in resources such as Market 309, then we can definitely help to not let anyone be left behind. it's honestly, it always comes down to letting the people help one another, but also, allowing the government to kind of guide them, but also step in when necessary. But I definitely feel as though if we are just to allow one another to help another when need be, we're able to build stronger communities and be able to be just a more united Peoria.
Mr. Carmona?
Yes, food deserts are very, very unfortunate. When there's not a grocery store that people can walk to or drive to that's close, then they're left with gas station food and stuff like that. And we all know that that's disastrous for health. In order for a grocery store to survive anywhere, it has to have the population to support it. In areas where the population is very low, we need to try to attract people to move there. How do we do this though? We need to make it easier, and I know this may sound crazy, but we need to make it easier to conduct business here. We need to slowly get our books in order. That way we can, meet the needs of the whole city to take care of the roads and everything like that. And we need to ease up some regulations that make it difficult for developers to come in and fix homes. There's a lot of red tape that goes into building affordable housing or building any housing in general. So we have to be more open to do things like this. That way we can attract more people to live here.
Okay. Next question, starting with you. Since we last met for a forum, the new administration in Washington, D.C. has shown its hand on proposed cuts to staffing and its real estate footprint. What would you do as a council member to work with not only our local federal lawmakers, but also city lobbyists to protect the federal government offices housed in downtown buildings within District 2 or employees working at the Ag Lab just at the edge of the district boundaries?
Yes, this is going to be a very difficult one because the new administration, this is one of their top priorities to shrink the size of government. What we're going to be able to do about it is very difficult because it's coming all the way from the top. So yes, we got to work with our local and state officials to try to see whatever we can do. But this is why it's so important for us as a city to get our books in order and be responsible with taxpayer dollars so we are not reliant on the federal government. I have a neighbor that was part of the Ag Lab that did get let go. From reading recent news, it sounds like he might be going back, thankfully, because the cuts are being made, as they say, with a chainsaw instead of with a scalpel. And so this is something that's very unfortunate that we're going to have to try to prepare for it however we can, but being responsible with our own money and trying to be as self-sufficient as possible is key.
All right, Ms. Diaz.
It always comes back to just helping and helping out the community. But mainly with these cuts being made, I will do everything to fight tooth and nail to protect the citizens that live here because they are the ones that matter. My whole job is to serve them. So even with the cuts being made up top, I'll fight for policies that will advocate for those who are most affected by these cuts. And I feel, again, if we are to help out one another, it just always comes back because sometimes, government isn't always the best for people. They don't necessarily, they're not there for the people. And if we see throughout hard times, throughout history, the main thing that people always come back to is community. It always has to be community. When we are going through tough times, we must be able to rely on one another. We must be able to help one another out. That's how we're going to be able to get through these tough times. And that especially means me as if I am elected and I am your leader, then fighting and doing whatever I can to protect my citizens.
Okay, thank you. During other community forums, including for multiple council districts and the mayor's race, there's been a lot of discussion centered on the city's DEIA department. And not all candidates have ruled out across the city the potential of cutting or reducing staff in that department. Would you commit to continuing to support the work of the city's DEIA department, or do you see other alternatives that can address those issues?
Of course, I'll fight tooth and nail. We have it set in place for a reason. I honestly, the cuts that are being made up top, it's just completely unfair. DEIA is there for a reason. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility we have these set in place so that people have equal opportunity, people have a fair shot, not just because they're privileged, not just because they have the resources, not just because they can. No, this is set in place so it's open for everyone. So it's open for all qualified candidates, not who they deem fit solely just that will fit the mold. No, it's about giving everyone a shot who is capable of doing the job.
Mr. Carmona.
Yeah, so we're, as we look to our future, with the pension crisis that everybody knows about, there are going to have to be very hard decisions as to what things we fund and what stays in place. No matter what happens with this department, the city has to always have a stance of respect, of tolerance, and of giving everybody equal opportunity, no matter where you come from, what you look like, any of these things. Whenever, especially for our government, we have to make sure that we live up to the words of our founding fathers, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, that say that everybody is equal under God. This is how we should always treat each other in real life, in person as well. The city jobs and everything like that should be no different.
All right. Since you invoked our 800-pound gorilla in the room, I'm going to ask you about pensions next, rather than a little later in here, since it is arguably the biggest cost driver for the city budget, and with the state requiring 90% funding for police and fire pensions by 2040, and frankly, the legislature not being willing at all to do anything to adjust that date or that percentage, you've got tens of millions of additional dollars to come up with locally year over year over year for this. What cuts or efficiencies in the budget would you support to get to that target?
Yeah, this is a very difficult one that I believe, because it's mandatory. We can't do anything about it. We have to fund it. The only way to increase our revenues is going to be to support the businesses that we have here, to let them grow, so they can provide not only more goods and services, but maybe more potential jobs for people that are already living there. We also have to make it easy to attract people from to our side of the river for business to drive our economy. The only way to raise revenue is going to be like this, because unless everybody wants higher taxes, and I can't tell you anybody that I've talked to that said that that is an okay thing to do, because we already have the highest property taxes in the country. And if we continue down that route, then we're going to give people the incentive to leave, not only people, but businesses. So we have to think of more creative ways to support the businesses that we have and to attract new ones here.
Okay. Ms. Diaz.
Yeah, so I think it comes down to, if we want people here, if we want to build up revenue, we need to get to the root causes of crime. We need to be able to prevent that and keep it lowered so people want to stay here, and so that we're able to attract businesses and businesses that want to make their startup here. If we are to provide them resources and allow them to thrive and support them, and especially locally, whether it be through pop-up shops, then we can help to raise those funds. When it comes to cutting specific things, I'll have to look further into that, just because I want to be mindful about what we're cutting. I don't want to just cut out how they're trying to do at the top, DEIA. I don't want to do that. No, I want to look at things that we can really cut that isn't necessary, but not when it comes against the people. I want to be mindful about that. And I want to take everything into consideration before making my decision on what I am going to cut.
All right, thank you. Next question then, what are your priorities for continuing to redevelop or bring new life back to Peoria's downtown?
Yes. Okay. So what I plan to do is I wanna partner with local artists and architectures, and I want to get the community involved. I want to get the people involved, because the people are the ones living here. If we connect with local artists, get the great minds, the creative juices flowing with them, then we can definitely see the contributions that the people in our city can make, and we can be proud of the city because we're showing off the talent that we have here. But not only that, when we have the people involved in the decision-making process of how to beautify our city, they will love the city a little bit more because they'll be like, wow, I contributed to that. And it's something that they want. It's not something I want. I'll be in support of it, but it's what the people want. It always goes back to what the people want because they are the ones who I'm serving and who I'm working for.
Mr. Carmona.
Yeah, so I've been a part of the Discover Peoria initiative that is trying to do this exact same thing. I've been in a few of their videos with my family. Even before I was a part of that initiative, we got 3 different families to move here from Colorado. And it was solely by them coming here to visit us and then us showing them how beautiful this city is. Our city has such potential for growth. When we first got here, people would say things like, why would you move here from Colorado? Don't you go skiing every day? I'm like, no, I think that when you grow up in a place, you kind of tend to forget what you have. I've been all over the country and we chose to live here for a reason. We didn't know a single person when we moved here, and now we have lifelong friends because Peoria is a welcoming, beautiful place. On top of this, the downtown area is ready to boom. BizPac endorsed me for a reason because they understand that I know how we can grow this economy. Thank you.
All right. Is there anything that the city should be doing that it has not been doing to address the challenges of the unhoused throughout the city? And I'd also like to hear from you your feelings on the ordinance the city adopted related to public camping and whether that should continue or not.
Yeah.
The ordinance should
Gotcha.
continue.
Yeah, so as far as what the city could be doing, it's unfortunate that the city allowed this problem to get this bad in the first place. From the first tent that went up, we should have gone out to see exactly how the heck we could help these people fix their lives, whatever that need is, because this problem is very, very, very complex. So what the city should be doing now is coming up with a strategic game plan to provide these individuals not only with some sort of stable housing, but also stable jobs and a continuum of care that they absolutely will need. This issue is not specific to Peoria, it's all over the country. And if you look into it, you'll see that it's one of the most difficult issues to solve anywhere. But we have to be able to work with our local nonprofits, the community as a whole, because this is the most philanthropic community I've ever been a part of. So all of us have to work together to fix this thing.
Ms. Diaz.
I think the local organizations that are doing the work right now, such as Lula, I think they're doing an incredible job at helping those who need it the most. I know that some of them are getting into transitional housing, which is incredible. Again, you just need to be able to extend a hand to those who need it the most. As for the ordinance, I still don't agree with it just because it's like some homelessness doesn't look just like one certain way. No, it can happen to anybody. I mean, it happened to me when I was about 11 years old, and it happened to my family. It almost did. So this is why I emphasize that, some people just need a little bit of help because it's not because my parents weren't hardworking. No, it's because my mom got sick and my dad was unfortunately the only one that was working. But I think we can look at solutions such as we can look after cities like Rockford, which has been able to reduce the amount of homelessness in the area and actually provide sustainable solutions. So I think definitely talking more with people who have come.
Okay, thank you all for being so good at abiding by the stop. I know this last question caught you both. Complex issue, homelessness in 60 seconds. So I want to shift focus a little bit. The current city landfill is quickly approaching capacity. The next one won't be coming online for a little while, so we'll be shipping our material elsewhere. So recycling is being much more actively encouraged, yet a full third of the city's population does not have access to recycling with curbside or drop off in the community like other cities in the county do. What would you do to expand the recycling program to apply to apartments throughout the city?
How would I apply? Getting the people involved, because they're the ones that's living there. But also when you get the people that are involved, that are living there and creating, projects for the community, you help to build a stronger community because you're actively getting people to come out and, having them take care of the city that they're living in. And when people are taking care of the city that they live in, they're able to love it a little bit more because they realize, this is my home. I'm not living in Texas? I'm not living in New York. No, I'm living in Peoria, Illinois. So if I'm living here, I might make the most of it. I want to love it as best as I can. So having, community events when we have trash pickup days so that apartments can get involved because, it can be a little bit isolating, but I think if we get to meet one another and actively, talk with one another, we can foster these relationships and build a more united community.
Mr. Carmona.
Yeah, I think communication is always key with everything. So, I could see the difficulty behind having a whole apartment complex kind of abide by things like this because typically you just go outside and throw in a big dumpster. So I think meeting with these individual apartment complexes with city staff to tell people why we're trying to do these things, maybe the dangers about how this landfill is filling up and what that could mean for our city, just to keep people informed as to the benefits of programs like this. So communication's key, and then setting up processes that make it a little easier to disseminate information.
Okay. Next question, and this is something that was alluded to a little bit earlier. Peoria recently received an online ranking noting that it had the highest property taxes in the nation as a proportion of the home's value. The city's share of property taxes is comparatively small next to, for instance, the school district, which takes up the lion's share of that, whether you're in Peoria 150 or Dunlap 323 or any of the others that are within city boundaries. Bearing all that in mind, what would you try to do to reduce city property tax rates?
The only way to reduce taxes of any form is going to be to get more people to share the tax burden, to increase our tax base. This is a beautiful city and has so much potential. Like I've said before, we love this city. People who come visit it see that there is affordable housing compared to the rest of the United States. It's pretty affordable to live here. Coming from Colorado and then friends that especially come from California, they see this and they've moved here because of these two things, the affordability and because of the beauty of the city. We have to be able to attract more people to share this burden and more businesses. This is the key to actually increasing the revenues for our city.
Ms. Diaz.
Yeah, so I can't necessarily, what I can do for this instance is I can try not to raise any. I can't reduce any, but I can try not to raise anything. Just because I don't necessarily think that I'll have the power to decrease anything that we're doing, but I think we should be definitely mindful of, the taxes that we're implementing, but also making the citizens aware of where their money's going, so that they understand that we're just not taking it just to take it. No, we're investing in it and we're using their money responsibly and we're being responsible with the money that we are getting.
All right. You're both private citizens in this moment. I'd like you to provide us from either your personal lives or your volunteer lives, an example of something you've done where you have identified a problem and then implemented a solution based on that problem. And part of this goes to how you would govern in that way.
Okay. Well, before me being a politician, I was an activist. And when it came up to wanting to do something about what was going on overseas, we had a group who came together and we organized. We came together for a specific cause. And although we weren't successful when it came to a ceasefire, it built up more community. And I think that's what it mainly came down to, is fostering these relationships that I would have never came up with had I had been silent. And I think it really does come down to just being able to connect with people, because when you connect with people, you're able to support one another. And honestly, had it not been for me taking a stand in what I did, I wouldn't have the people who are standing behind me, who are supporting me, who are uplifting me throughout this whole way. So again, we may not have passed it, but we did come up with relationships that, again, I would have never formed had I not took a stance on what mattered most to me.
Mr. Carmona.
Yes, I can definitely see the complexities when it comes to governing because there's so many different entities and so many different interests that are all vying for tax dollars and for their own purposes. My greatest benefit, not only from my experience in the Air Force being a leader there, is being a entrepreneur, a business owner. I sell my art for a living and I'm able to pay my bills with that. That's one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life. It's something that my kids want to do because they love art as well, but they see what it looks like now. They didn't see what it looked like when I had to travel all over the country. My wife was obviously a big part of this success too because she was helping me all along the way and being very supportive. So when you're a business owner and you're an entrepreneur, you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to identify problems, see what's working, what's not, and you have to be creative with solutions. This is something that I can bring to the council.
All right. There are going to be any number of issues that come up while you're on the council where the district as a whole does not necessarily agree on what the solution is. So how will you work to determine the priorities for the district and how you'll vote on these issues? In other words, what kind of steps are you going to take to ensure that all community voices are heard rather than just the loudest perspectives or the perspective that can get you on the phone the soonest?
Sure. I think this is all about just meeting with people, making sure I'm actively engaged in all of District 2. Obviously, we're going to be making decisions for the whole city as well. So this is a position that you can use it as basically a full-time gig. I mean, you can spend as much time on this as you want. And most of the time for me is going to be actually talking to business owners, talking to neighborhood associations, talking to just individuals to see where their problems are and seeing how we have to weigh those with all the needs, especially for downtown, because we know that downtown is going to be the economic driver of our future. And so much is pinning on the success of downtown, but that's exactly why it's so important to take everybody else's consideration in as well, because we want to make sure that the rest of us citizens aren't overlooked.
All right, Mr. Diaz.
Yeah, I think it always comes back to just listening to what everyone has to say. Just because if we take only certain voices into consideration without really talking to everybody who, certain things it's gonna affect, then that's not really being, a council member, because you're supposed to be here for the people. You're supposed to listen to the people. You're supposed to, take into consider what they're saying. But again, it comes down to listening to all perspectives and all sides of whatever thing we're voting on or agreeing on or disagreeing on, and seeing what's going to be best for the city. Because again, it always has to come down to the safety of the citizens. It always has to come down to what the citizens want, and it just comes down to what the people want. I may have certain things that I want to do, and I may have certain things that I disagree with, but if things are looking more towards a specific direction, it's more for the safety of the citizens. If it's more for the people and what the people want, then obviously we're going to go with what the people want, because again, they're the ones living here.
All right. What is the biggest concern as you've gone around the neighborhoods from residents in District 2? What is the biggest concern that you have heard in the neighborhoods, and how specifically do you plan to address that with policy on the council floor?
Yeah, so crime, safety is it's always going to be one of the main concerns. And although we do have crime down, my goal is to continue that progress, just because, again, one of the main reasons why I was running and why I am running is because unfortunately one of my classmates had died in my district. His name was Tommy Forrest III, and he died when I was about 14. He was a victim to gun violence. So implementing programs such as the Violence-Free Zone, which can work with union members to offer skills to individuals, especially young individuals, to help them be on a brighter path, but also give them the resources they need to thrive in their future. And it gives the youth direction when parents are overworked, when parents can't be there fully sometimes it can be overburdening, and sometimes parents just need a little extra help. So by offering programs and assistance to these families, and especially to the youth, we can definitely help to keep crime down, but also be able to build up the next generation.
The two main things that I'm hearing and I'm seeing is, for one, safety. Yes, everybody continues to talk about this at every meeting, because there's also some ugly statistics that you can look up online that say that we are, one of the, most unsafe cities in America. And that's not a good look for us. This is an essential function of government to keep everybody safe. Everybody, every single citizen. So safety first, but also infrastructure. We've walked through a lot of neighborhoods. I know Ms. Diaz has as well. And it's pretty clear that the local government could be doing better to allocate resources where the people need them the most, to keep people safe on the roads and in their homes. Me as a new council member am going to go around talking to not only other sitting council members, but former council members to see their experience and how they were able to allocate more funds, because everybody is looking for the same thing for their own separate districts. Thank you.
All right. What are your feelings about tax increment financing districts? We'll take it real serious for a second there and into the weeds. Have they helped Peoria? And do you see a benefit for considering any new ones in District 2, perhaps on the model of the residential TIF on the East Bluff?
Yeah, I think the TIF model seems like it's been working. Basically what that TIF model does is that it takes your taxes and it puts it into a fund, and it doesn't, and that fund ends up funding the growth of that certain sector that the TIF overlays on. This is something I'm gonna need to do a little bit more research on, but I have a lot of friends who are very big advocates for TIF. At whatever we can do to support the people, not only residents, but businesses to grow would be great. One of my friends talks about how we can have TIF district or TIF overlays on actual residential homes as well. That way people can maintain their property in an easier way.
Ms. Diaz.
I think it's great because Detroit actually, it's Detroit. Detroit had done this, and because of it, they were able to revitalize the city as a whole. So I definitely think that this is a great start. It's a great approach. And by looking after what we're doing in the East Bluff, I think that we can see what's working for us and what's not. And starting on a scale like that in a targeted area, then again, we can see what works for us, what doesn't. But yeah, I think it's a good approach. And I'm happy to see whatever progress that we make. And if I have any other opinions on it, then I'll speak on it. But as of right now, I just want to see more of how things are going to unfold with it.
All right. I want to look toward infrastructure for a second over a couple of questions here. Certainly we have the roads in Peoria, and most people would argue that the roads need to be improved in Peoria. But what focus would you put on non-car focused transportation, whether that's an effort to expand the bus service, CityLink, CityLift, that the community in part pays for through separate taxing, or the addition of bike lanes when roads are repaired. So what would you do to support that sort of infrastructure?
Yes, I definitely think, because I live off of a university in McQueen, and manager, me and Adam were canvassing. We could barely walk down the street because the sidewalks were cracked. Some sidewalks were just randomly cut off. And I remember growing up, and specifically my father, he would watch me and my siblings as we would ride our bikes, and we wouldn't be able to go far just because it's been years. I'm 23 now, I was 11. But it's been years, and that sidewalk still hasn't been fixed. And so it just makes me think about the younger generations who literally have to go and they have to ride in the middle of the streets on these little side streets and ride their bikes. But do you know how dangerous that is for children who look, like 10, 5, who are riding their bikes in the middle of the street? I think we should definitely improve our sidewalks and have more bicycle lanes so that people can also be active, but also summertime is coming around, and I think it would be enjoyable for the people.
Mr. Carmona.
Yeah, unfortunately, public transit in all of America is not like, you see it in Europe or, the other countries. So that's very unfortunate. Here in the city of Peoria, increasing, the city link routes and stuff like that would be good, more stops. And as roads do come up for refurbishment, looking into things like bike lanes that a lot of people are very, that are advocates for, to see if it doesn't impede traffic too much and we're able to keep them safe through a bike lane, I think is something we should always be looking into, because all growing cities, they are more and more advocating for things like this, because young people like to travel in ways like this to stay fit and to, and just to be outside. So we need to be able to meet them there for their needs as well. Thank you.
Okay, now we do have to talk about pavement for a second as well. And car-related transportation. The city, of course, uses a pavement condition index to assess what side streets are most in need of repair, rather than putting that as something on district council members' plates to be pushing for. If you're fortunate and you're elected, you might get to put one major road into the pipeline during a 4-year term. So I'm going to put you on the spot. What major road in District 2 do you really think needs repairs most urgently?
Repairs most urgently. The main road, I would say, would be going from the corridor from Main and University that everybody likes to avoid, all the way down to the river. The road there is in the university area, it's not terrible, but the traffic problem is a really big problem, and people avoid it, and we don't want people to avoid it because there's so many businesses there. As you go down that road heading towards the river, the road is in very bad shape. This is one of the main kind of corridors for the city, and I think it's very important that we look into fixing it.
Ms. Diaz.
Yeah, so I know it's not necessarily a main road, but it does connect to main roads. It's McClure, and that's around the area that I live. It's right after McQueen, but that, oh my goodness. Whenever I want to avoid Main Street, whenever I want to avoid University Street, I take that road because it's easy. You can take the little bridge that goes on Forest Hill, and you can go down to where the library is, McClure Library. But that street has been overlooked for so long, and the people there, they deserve to have it taken care of, because they're the residents that matter. I mean, all residents matter, but they're the ones who have been overlooked for so long and made to seem like they don't care. Every time I'm driving down that road, I feel like I'm gonna get whiplash because I keep hitting potholes. But imagine like everyday people who aren't as involved in government, who want these things fixed, but they just, the language that government uses is a bit confusing, but also they feel as though it's not a space where they belong, so they don't vocalize their concerns.
All right, and we're at the point for one final question, and then we'll move to our closing statements from each of you. Serving on the city council, particularly in a district council role, can literally be a 40-hour-a-week job on its own, and particularly in your week leading into council meetings. Talk to us a little bit, talk to voters about how you'll balance that with your full-time work and family obligations that you have.
So this is something that I want to discuss. Working class people such as myself, I realized, like, although it was never about like the salary and any of that, no, it was always for the people, but I realized it does prohibit working class people who aren't as fortunate as me, who I work third shift. I get 3 to 4 days off max at my job. I work night shift. So my days are open. I get, days off where I'm able to work on the council. But say those who are working class people who want to run, they get discouraged to run because they can't manage a full-time job while also this being a full-time job. But thankfully, I do have the privilege to be able to have the job that I do. But again, I think the stuff that I'm doing now isn't going to be any different than what I would be doing on the council. I would just have a little bit more responsibilities and a little bit more power. But thankfully for my job, my boss, she works well with me. And also because sometimes I'll have a little bit of downtime, well, I'll be able to look into, working my job, I'll be also working my other job. So I think.
Mr. Carmona.
The only reason I'm running for this position is because I am finally at a place in my life where not only my business is doing good, it's self-sustaining, but my family is very supportive. My wife you've ever met her, is the most incredible person. We're raising 3 kids together, and we are all ready for this sacrifice. We really love this city, and I've made a commitment several times in different forums, and I'm going to make one here again to all of District 2. I do still have to create art for a living, but this position, the only reason I'm running for it is because I know that I have a steady income coming in, not only through endorsement deals that I already have that are recurring, but also because my wife also works. And so my commitment to the people of District 2 is that this position will come first. This council seat will come before my art business. And it is a sacrifice that I am willing to make and that my family's ready for.
All right, we will now move into closing statements. So please tell our live stream audience, as well as those in the room, why they should go ahead and vote for you, whether that's through early voting beginning Monday, whether that's through vote by mail, or whether that is on election day.
Yes, thank you very much again for having us for this forum. Like I said, I'm doing this for the right reasons. Anybody who knows my character, any of my friends that have met me here, potential constituents, they can see that. I hope that you can see that too. I'm not doing this because I have any aspirations to do anything else in politics. Neither one of us are politicians. We're regular people that want to help serve the community. So what I'm asking from you is to help spread the word and vote for Alex Carmona on April 1st or beginning on Monday if you want to go to early vote. Call your friends and let them know. I'm also willing to talk to anybody. Please go to citizensforalexcarmona.com to learn more about my platform. My phone number is on there. I'm happy to meet with anybody and talk to anybody. And this is how I'm going to continue to lead in this city, is by example and by meeting people, and to do this job the right way and put full effort behind it. Thank you. Please vote for Alex Carmona on April 1st.
All right, Ms. Diaz.
Hi, okay. Well, this is pretty exciting because we're getting to the last bits of it. But I just want to say this journey is incredible. I am grateful for my opponent, Mr. Carmona, and I'm grateful for all of you showing up here. The reason why you guys should vote for me is take a chance on me. You never know what you're going to expect. And again, if you know me, my whole platform, as I've been saying this whole time, is I'm here to work for you. I've never been one before that was ever really dedicated to politics, but I realized that we needed a change. And if we really want change, it has to start at a local level. We have to be the change. And if I am to win, then I think that this will give people hope that, I'm not a traditional politician. I'm not someone who ever saw this as a career path for myself, but I wanted to run because I want to change. And I think that this should encourage people, if I am to win, that you too can make a change. It doesn't have to start with somebody who's fancy, who knows all the knowledge, who knows a lot. It just has to come with somebody who has a heart and who actively wants to make change in their community. But if you're excited to vote, I say go starting Monday. And if you want to vote for me, you can do it April 1st as well, because that's election day. But if you want to know more about my platform, you can look at my website, Diaz for District 2. And I also am going to be at the St. Patty's Day Parade. Hopefully I see you. I'll pass out candy. But I hope you vote for me, and I hope that you guys got to get to know me throughout this journey, and I'm glad that you guys came on this journey with me. And again, thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you all for being here. Your voice matters, and you have power to make a change. So do so by not just voting for us, but also voting in other races that are occurring. Thank you.
Right. Thank you both. We appreciate you both taking the time to come here today to answer questions from the audience, questions you submitted this time, as well as questions that were submitted last time by the audience that made up the bulk of what was asked here that we couldn't get to before. So I appreciate your willingness to speak with us today. A point of indulgence from the podium here to remind everybody that it is crucial that you vote in your local elections. They are some of the lowest turnout elections that are out there. It is the most important. It is your biggest, best chance to have your voice heard on the issues that affect you in your community every day when you wake up, when you go to work. So I will urge you once more, take advantage of any of your opportunities to vote over the next 2 weeks and 3 days, and make sure that you are out there and have your voice heard.
Can we also add that these municipal elections, because of the low turnout, are consistently very, very, very close? People in this room will tip a race by 1 or 2 votes. Our current township supervisor is in that seat because of 2 votes.
Yes, races can be close, so every vote matters in the races. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you to our host to St. Paul's. Let's give both candidates a round of applause for putting themselves out there. We wish everyone the best of luck and enjoy the remainder of your Saturday.
I've been touching my lips.